Took the cover crop out, ran the vertical tillage tool, pre-irrigated, had some pretty significant grow back, and now with shallow rototiller to take everything out. Probably what we'll do now is maybe put a light sprinkler water on this, and then germinate maybe more weeds, and then flame it prior to transplanting. And in the occultation beds, we would just plant it the way it is, and we'll probably use the system Darryl Wong has shared with me, where we will run a wavy coulter, a little chisel point, and then the transplanter right behind for putting the leeks in. Today is August 1st. This is our Santa Ana Ranch. This is field S11 South, and these are, we're going to go across and look at Melon 4 and 5, which were planted on top of 80-inch beds that had winter cover crop that was mowed, and then we strip tilled and we direct seeded. We also put in about probably 25 units of nitrogen feathermeal prior to planting, and where we strip tilled. And this area of the farm probably runs 4% organic matter, in that ballpark. And we have pretty good vine growth. Melons are setting well, covering the beds fairly well. We did have a couple skippy areas where we lost some stand. That was either to probably to earwigs or some soil insects. So coming across this field, we're coming out of cantaloupes, we're coming into canaries. And then this is moving into melon 6. Yeah, this is even a little bit better vine growth in here. Today is Saturday, August 1st. This is our Santa Ana Ranch. This is field S6. These are 80-inch beds that have been pretty much permanent beds for several years. We've gone cover crop to melons, cover crop to tomatoes. We had a 80-inch bed top cover crop last winter, and then in the spring, April, we mowed it and let it just sit. And then a month later, when we started to get some regrowth, we came through with the 80-inch vertical tillage tool and the undercutting knife, and just made a pass, undercut it probably 2.5 to 3 inches deep max, and it's pretty much left it weed free, except for some patches of morning glory, which we have been treating with weed slayer. So for a field that we really didn't need for planting this summer, this was a nice way to leave cover and some residue on top of the beds until we do need this field for 2021. This field is scheduled for onions for 2021, and at this point we're trying to decide if we generally plan on 40-inch beds, so if we continue with that, we would just need to split these 80s into 40s, spread our compost, pick up the beds, pre-irrigate, or we could try planting them on 80s, spread compost, vertical tillage tool, and then probably get pre-irrigation on them. At some point we'll need to work up the residue on top of the beds a little bit more, so that when we plant, we have a pretty clean bed top to plant our direct seeded onions. Today is Saturday, August 1st. This is our Santa Ana Ranch. This is field S56. A week ago, we terminated a single-line cover crop in here with mowing high, removing the drip tape, another pass with the mower to cut a little lower. Then we ran the vertical tillage tool, and then we ran the McIlroy to cut the stalks, and then we spread compost, picked up the beds with the Lilliston, and now we're pre-irrigating, and this field will go to brassicas planting in the month of September. Today is Saturday, August 8th. This is our Santa Ana Ranch, field S11 South, and this is where we're utilizing a summer cover crop of sunflower. We have a little bit of vetch and buckwheat mixed with it, but we're using using the ability of what's nice about the sunflower for trap cropping cucumber beetle. But instead of putting a solid planting in at one time, we have spaced our plantings out. So we have 4 different plantings here that will allow us to take a planting out when it gets close to seed production, and then have the younger planting next to it for the cucumber beetle to move into. And so this should extend our ability to trap cucumber beetle maybe for 6 to 8 weeks. And we're doing that to the benefit of melon fields that are susceptible to damage from cucumber beetle. So going along melon field in Santa Ana, this is melon 6. And then some 80-inch beds where we did double line summer cover crop of sunflower, and we have them planted over at different time periods, so we have ability to have flowering sunflower over a much longer period of time, which seems to be beneficial to attracting cucumber beetle, which will keep some of them out of our melon crop. Today is Saturday, August 8th. This is our Santa Ana Ranch. This is field S11 South. And this is melon 5. This is planted on top of a winter cover crop that was mowed and strip tilled and had around 25 units of nitrogen as feathermeal, preplant, and then direct seeded. In this, these melons now are in pretty good fruit production, kind of a decent crown set. I would say the growth is not typical of what we usually get. Usually we have the vines really growing into the furrow, and then we actually have to train the vines in our pick rows, move them out of the furrow. So in a few places you can start to see a little bit of that, but for the most part they haven't really completely covered into the furrow like we normally get. So these are cantaloupes. These are some galeas, a little bit more so, but not real heavy growth in the furrow, just beginning to creep into the furrow. Looking at this melon 5 a little bit more. Normally our melons, we would not need to put any feathermeal pre-plant. We generally just with compost and then the organic matter in our soils at this ranch. This field is runs probably 3.5% to 4% organic matter, and that would, along with compost pre-plant, that would grow a pretty robust melon crop. In this one, where we just mowed the cover crop and strip tilled, just from our history with our current history with some reduced tillage, we realized we can't get away without adding some additional nitrogen, so that's why we did the pre-plant feathermeal. So continuing to look at these melons, melon 5 at our Santa Ana Ranch. A lot of times we will not do any preplant nitrogen. We will just, our compost from that we apply and our soil organic matter. This field is probably, so in this melon field we'll also keep some, keep track of our harvest and see what kind of yield we get out of it. Even though there's some reduced vine size, it may mean that we still have, adequate fruit for harvest, equivalent to, our normal yields, and we will determine that. Today is Saturday, August 8th. This is San Juan Ranch Field SJ2. In here we have Plasticulture, Occultation trial, and then some reduced tillage. And so we're looking at watermelons, planted single line. The two beds to the left were actually rototilled. We're coming across three beds that were just mowed, winter cover crop, and strip tilled. All of this had about 25 units of nitrogen feathermeal. And now we're coming across the Plasticulture, 4 beds. Really significant growth in the watermelons in here. And then we have we had 4 beds that were occultation with weed barrier. 3 of them we planted Mayan squash, but this bed we're looking at now was watermelon, same variety, and it has pretty good vine coverage and pretty good growth also. Here we are at the occultation plastic trial, and we've cut some of the plastic back to look at the surface of the soil, and here is some of the residue from the cover crop, and there's a little bit of fungal activity still along there where there's plenty of moisture. Then we have this real interesting organism or growth on just the surface of the clods. That would be interesting to find out if somebody knew what that was.
Sure would.
Here we are at San Juan Occultation trial with Tom and Dinesh, and we pulled some of the weed barrier back that we've had on for several weeks, and have drip tape irrigated where we had just mowed cover crop and spread compost. So we're kind of wanting to see some of the activity that's going on, and if you pull back some of the residue, you can start to see some pretty good white fungal activity. And again, we're seeing that same surface phenomena on clods occasionally that have some kind of growth on the surface of the soil. Just a shot of the weed barrier across the field, and this will be on a couple more weeks, and probably 2 weeks after that we will transplant leeks right into the surface. Today is August 8th. This is our San Juan Ranch. This is field SB2, and this is melon number 5. And this was a winter cover crop on 80-inch beds, mixed species, and we just mowed and strip tilled. We did put probably 30 units of nitrogen feathermeal, buried some drip tape, and this was direct seeded. We did do, when we cultivated, we had some outside top knives that came in and kind of cleaned up some weeds on the tops of the beds without disturbing the top of the bed, and left quite a bit of residue on top of the bed. Have some weeds that have come up in here, a little bit of morning glory. So continuing looking here at melon number 5, we are getting pretty good growth. The feathermeal we put in pre-plant seems to be giving us enough nitrogen. The organic matter in this area of the farm is probably in the 2% range, so we don't have a lot of extra in the soil. Not a very high organic matter. And then since we didn't incorporate the cover crop, we don't have, a lot of it's available for the following crop, which is this melon crop. So the feathermeal was beneficial. We are getting pretty good vine growth in here and should be moderately productive. Looking again at melon number 5 in San Juan. What we really don't have in here is a rep where we incorporated our cover crop, which historically we would generally incorporate our cover crop with the spader, have that cover crop really available for the following crop. So this is, I would say, okay vine growth, but I don't know if we would have full coverage, better vine coverage into the furrow, maybe more fruiting sites if we had incorporated some cover crop prior to the planting of the melons.